let me just start by saying this, that a lot of times if you take nutrition just by flying by the seat of your pants, it's probably going to be a struggle for you. So just some things to think about. Like if you eat school lunch, looking up what's for lunch this week. Am I going to have options there that I'm going to get enough protein, and then am I going to get enough carbs and fats to go along with it? Is it going to be something that's going to help me if I have a big workout later that day? So, meal planning can be a big part of just making sure that you're actually hitting all of your nutritional goals. So, some really simple things that you can do. One thing my wife and I will do from time to time is just make a bunch of chicken breasts on Sunday. You can stick them in the oven, stick them on the Traeger, and just cover them 400 degrees, 35 minutes, get them up to 167, and then hold on to them, and you got them for the week, right? It's a bunch of just super easy protein that you can get in. You can do the same thing with your veggies. You can make a ton of rice. You can make all your eggs for the week. And so as we get going, what I'll probably do is just kind of give you more ideas on this, on what specific things you can do. Tonight, we're going to talk mostly about snacks. Um, Other things like, I know you guys probably aren't making a ton of your meals. Maybe your parents are making more, but just, doubling up recipes so that way you can save the leftovers and bring them. I think that's just another easy hack that you can do. And then obviously, if you go to a restaurant, um, we're still trying to hit our protein, veggies, and then healthy carbs. So just finding ways to prepare ahead of time, I think will make a huge difference for you in terms of, are you going to actually hit your calorie goals or not? So I'm just going to run through just a ton of different snack ideas for you. Okay, as I'm going through these, just screenshot them. That way you've got them. Okay, so this first one is just like general athlete's grocery list. So, you have all your proteins here, and we talked a little bit about these last week. But if you're looking for, easy things to do, making a bunch of hard-boiled eggs on Sunday can be easy. We talked about beef jerky, creating shakes ahead of time, and then just you got them ready to go as you're leaving for the day. Okay, cottage cheese is easy. Greek yogurt. Um, One thing that I would always do when I was well, I still do it now, is I'll just like fill up little baggies full of whey protein. And I know it's one serving. That way I just always have them on hand. I keep them in my bag so they're ready at all times. Um, those are just little things that you can do just so that way you're always prepared. Okay, we talked about things like making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches beforehand. We talked about the trail mix hack that I always like live by, basically always having trail mix on you just so you can get easy calories in that way. If you go to a place like Costco or Sam's Club, they have like little avocado packets that you can buy. And so just pack some pretzels or pack something you can dip into it, and you got a ton of healthy fats there with the avocado. Um, Other things like carbs, and we'll talk about, when to eat your carbs. I know we mentioned that last week, but um, pretzels, fruit. I always would carry some fruit with me for like pre-workout snacks. And then obviously you have your hydration here too. So chocolate milk, remember drinking calories was another thing that we talked about last week. That's a super easy way to get calories in if you need it. And if you're someone that's trying to lose weight, you're going to probably be the opposite of this, where you don't necessarily want to drink a ton of calories. Probably don't want chocolate milk. Maybe you're just only going with protein and water. Um, maybe you're cutting out pop and sugary drinks and things like that just in order to dial back the calories. So I would take a screenshot of this just so you have it. You can share it with mom or dad, or even go learn how to buy your own groceries. Okay, if you can drive and you got a job. Okay, if your calorie intake is important to you, that's something easy that you can do yourself too. Okay, so this one's good for what to avoid the night before. So a lot of us we're getting into more like high intent work. Maybe you're in a sport right now and you're still playing football, or you're playing basketball, or when the season rolls around. These are just good things to avoid the night before big game or a big workout the next day. Just really what we're trying to do is limit things that disrupt our sleep. And so a lot of these things like fried foods, can cause GI issues. Unfamiliar foods can cause GI issues. Too much fiber can cause GI issues. And so those things can keep you up at night if your body's not digesting them well. Too much sugar can obviously get you wired before bed. Same thing with too much caffeine after 3 o'clock. So those are just little things that if they disrupt sleep, that can disrupt performance. And then obviously if they're not super healthy for us, that can disrupt performance as well. And then just staying up too late the night before. I know we talked about sleep maybe a month or so ago. We'll probably readdress it again as we get closer to the season. But really what we're trying to do is avoid disrupting sleep as much as possible and then just continue to eat solid, healthy foods. Okay, so high energy snacks. These are great snacks for prior to a workout. So remember, we talked about we always want to have our carbs before and after a workout, and then we always want to have a protein with every snack. So these are just really easy things that you can do just as a quick snack before a workout or right afterwards. Okay, these ones are a little bit on the lighter side if you're trying to cut some pounds. These ones down below are a little bit on the heavier side if you're trying to pack on the pounds. But really, it just comes down to do I have a carb? Do I have a protein? Do they come from decent sources? Okay, so go ahead and take a screenshot of that so you've got it. And then what I would do is just think, okay, if I'm someone that really likes peanut butter, maybe this is my snack for the week, and I'm just going to pack 3 or 4 of these and try and get them all done throughout the day, right? Or maybe on Sunday, I know I'm going to have 5 workouts. I'm going to make 5 turkey, cheese, and avocado sandwiches, and then I've just got them for the week and they're ready to go. Okay, so those are the little things that I would do that will help you get to your calorie goals that are also healthy, that are high in protein, and they're going to help your performance. Okay, what do we do on the back end? So what can we do to help us recover? So here's a pretty good little rule of thumb. Pair a minimum of 25 grams of protein plus 50 grams of carbs. Remember, you need those carb sources to replenish. Your muscles are going to soak up all of those, all of those, all of those carbs to help repair the muscles and then replenish energy stores. So getting protein and carbs in at the same time is good. It doesn't do us any good just to have only protein. We need the carbs in there as well. So that's really important for you. And then here's just some easy things that you can do. So again, you know you're going to have 5 workouts this week. I'm going to have something locked and loaded. So that way, as soon as I'm done with my lift for the day, it's ready to go. Maybe some of you guys lift going into lunch, and that's great, but I'm going to guess a lot of us don't. And so, let's say you lift at the very end of the day. Maybe you lift like 6th or 7th hour after lunch, right? So if you can have something ready, and let's say you skip that meal, right? So you don't eat anything then, and then you have something after school, and now it's 3 hours later and we still haven't eaten anything. So having those things prepared and ready to go, I think will be a big unlock for a lot of you guys. Okay, any questions on anything we've covered so far? Are we all watching the are we all watching the Dodgers try and get out of this jam right now? Okay, here gas station snacks. So I know a lot of us when we're palling around with our buddies, whether it's before a game, on the way, everyone's like, "Oh, let's stop at the gas station and get something," or even if you're going to a football game on a Friday night or going to a basketball game, you guys stop and get something. Okay, here's easy things that you can do. A lot of these gas stations actually have pretty great options now where you can get fresh produce and you can get hard-boiled eggs. I don't know how much you want a hard-boiled egg from a gas station, but they do have them if you're ever in a pinch. But again, your trail mixes, your protein shakes. Okay, beef jerky is a great one when you're there. They do offer like Greek yogurt, pretzels and hummus. A lot of these places have, and then your protein bars. So again, I would take screenshots of this so you have it and can refer back to it just because I know that you might not remember all of this, and at least you'll have something you can refer back to. And hopefully now that you've seen it and now that you've been educated, as you're walking up and down the aisles, you think, oh, this is high in protein. This is something I need. This is high in carbs. I just got done with a workout. My buddies and I are going to head to a football game or something. I need some carbs in me, right? So hopefully just the knowledge that you gained from this will help you. And then lastly, just overall tips for muscle gain. Almost every single one of us needs to continue to get stronger this off season. So um, these are just easy things that you can do. Okay, we've talked a little bit about sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night. All you guys are already lifting. Okay, making sure that you guys are getting your carbs, your fruits and veggies, your protein. We talked about water last week. Okay, we talked about the importance of breakfast and just preparing for that. And then the last one is creatine, which we talked about last week also. Okay, again, creatine is one of the best things that you can take, right? So it's super cheap too, which is nice. 5 grams is all you need. Take it with some water first thing in the morning, and you guys are good to go. So, any questions on any of this nutritional stuff? Mostly just wanted to review it again tonight because it's just that important, fellas, right? Your ability to recover and um, and bounce back from like high intense training is going to be obviously like we have to train really hard to get better, right? And if we don't recover well, then we're just wasting our time essentially. And that's the last thing we can do is we can't afford to waste our time. Okay. Because our careers go by fast, the off seasons go by fast, and so we have to take advantage. Okay, so just some final nutritional takeaways for you. All right, failing to plan is planning to fail. So as you meal prep, one thing that could be helpful is just put your calories in so you know if you'll get enough, right? So let's say it's Sunday and you're just trying to think about, okay, what am I going to eat tomorrow? Am I going to get enough calories in? If you know kind of what you're going to have, put your calories in ahead of time the night before. And then you're like, oh, I'm still going to be 1,000 calories short. So I need to come up with 1,000 calories somewhere. Maybe that's finding a couple more snacks. Maybe that's doubling up on breakfast, whatever it might be. um, I think it's just important that you have a plan going into it, so that way you know that you're getting enough. And if it's on the flip side, and you're trying to cut some pounds, it's kind of the same thing where okay, am I going to eat more tomorrow than I think I am, right? Where do I need to cut some things back if I'm getting more than I actually need? Okay, and then B is just iterate over time. So like over time, you'll figure things out. You'll know kind of how much calories are in things, and you won't need to necessarily log as much. And you might find like, oh, when I ate this before a workout, I felt really good. Okay, I had an apple and a cold glass of water right before my workout, felt amazing, right? Or I had this the night before a big game and I was up because my stomach didn't handle it super well, right? So you'll start to learn what works for you and what doesn't, because everyone's going to be a little different. All I can really give you is just like some general overall guidance, and then from there you kind of have to use that knowledge and use what you've learned to figure out what works for you. And then number two is make it easy. So I've talked about trail mix. I've talked about packing peanut butter and jellies or peanut butter and honeys. That's usually what I would eat. Um, so finding easy ways to get snacks in is good. Okay, log your food. I mentioned this to someone, if you play a lot of games on your phone, just log your food. Make it a rule that you're going to log your food before you play your games, right? Nothing wrong with playing games, but if it comes at the expense of getting your calories in, then that's an issue, right? So maybe you just make a personal rule. Hey, I'm not going to play Candy Crush until I log my calories. Letter C is just set reminders. So if you're having a hard time remembering to take something, like for me, I have a hard time remembering to take my daily vitamins. So if I set a reminder, that just takes care of it for me. I don't have to remember anymore. Um, or even just setting a reminder to log your calories and get them in. And then the last one, if let's say I have guys that are forgetful when it comes to taking creatine or protein or really anything, and I mentioned this the other day, but just like one thing that I do, if I need to remember to bring something to work or anywhere, I'll put it underneath my keys or I'll put it on top of my keys because then I know before I leave the door or before I walk out the door, I need to have my keys with me, and then boom, I've got it right there. So if you're struggling to pack snacks and protein, put your wallet and your keys on top of your snacks for tomorrow, and that way you won't forget. And then lastly, we said it 1,000 times. It doesn't matter if it's nutrition or if it's your training. We need to be consistent, right? Consistency over perfection. So you don't have to necessarily be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect plan, right? But you do have to be consistent. And over time, you'll start to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Any questions on the nutritional stuff? I don't think there's anything in the chat. Okay. Okay, before we get to yoga, just some program updates. So if you didn't play fall ball, a lot of us in the month of November are going to transition into more high intent phases. So what that means is you'll probably have like a mechanical day and then you'll have like a high intent long toss day. Okay, I don't know if any of us are ready for weighted balls yet. Um, but a lot of us are ready to get after it with long toss. And so if you made it through your 6 week program or your 6 week on ramp and you see a high intent day, that's a day to get after it, right? So we're maxing out our long toss and we are like running gun into the net as hard as we can. Okay. Now when it comes to that, we have to there's gonna be a couple things. So I'm working on getting sleep tracking and recovery into your app. So what that means is just it's another thing to log, but you'll basically tell me how many hours of sleep you got that night, and then you'll tell me like just how your body feels. So on a scale of 1 to 10, like 10 would be I feel amazing, 5 would be hey I'm feeling just okay. Maybe like a 1 or 2 is like hey I'm battling a cold and I just don't really feel like I've got it. And so we can use that to figure out like, okay, why is my velo down? Or, hey, I've been sick for the last couple of days. Maybe we shouldn't have a high intent day and let our body bounce back. Okay. Because a big part of this is just understanding like when to pump or when to put our foot on the gas and then when to pump the brakes and tracking things like sleep, making sure we have enough sleep, making sure we're taking care of nutrition, making sure that we're recovered before we do another high intent day is super important. Okay, one of the biggest predictors of injury is fatigue. So, pitchers that throw under fatigue are 36 times more likely to get hurt. And what we want to make sure is that when we do a high intent day, we are fully rested and ready to go. So that way we can maximize what our body can produce. Right. And so if we can make sure that we're tracking our calories, making sure that we're taking care of our sleep, and then making sure that we feel recovered prior to a big outing or big like high intent day, it's super important. And that will help me too, if just like, you know, 2 or 3 months down the road, or even in the season, you're like, hey, my velo's down. We can kind of talk, we can go back to date, like what you're doing right now when everyone feels really good and be like, well, you're eating more, you're taking care of your arm care, things like that. If we track everything, we can see where what things have changed, and maybe we can answer some of those questions of why we're not performing well later. And then it also just helps me know, okay, these guys are taking care of everything, you know, outside of training. Then I feel really good about, saying, hey, let's go get after it with the long task. Because obviously, I'm not always with you guys when you're going to be doing these high intent days. Some of you guys will be with Braden on Wednesdays and do them then. But at least I'll feel better, and we'll all feel better about you guys taking care of yourself and not putting yourself in a spot where maybe you're putting your arm in jeopardy. One thing to remember that is soreness is normal, but pain is not. So just understanding that difference, I think, is really important. If you went out and did like a max bench or a max squat the next day, no one would feel like no one would be worried the next day if you felt a little sore from it, right? But if you did a max bench and next thing you know, your low back is blown up and you feel like it hurts to really bend over, like that's pain. And that's something that we probably should be taking care of. So it's okay if you're sore, in your shoulder, in your arm a little bit, right? After you're throwing, that's normal, right? You're putting your body under stress, and your body when it has to stress, it's going to break down, and then it has to bounce back from there. But pain, like stuff that feels like it's a sharp pain in the bones or something, like that's not normal. So just be aware of that you're not always going to feel super great. Um, and that you might be a little beat up after some of these high intent days. So just understand what's normal and what's not. And if you're not sure, just ask, right? So I can help you kind of guide through that. Other things is if you're still in a lot of pain, after you know more than 72 hours after a high intent day, then that's probably when we should at least let me know, or we should get something checked out. And then the other one is, if your velo's down significantly. But the main thing is like after 72 hours, if we take a couple days off the throne and we're still really hurting, that's when we probably should at least communicate with me that we need to get something taken care of. Number two is shutdown periods for fall ball guys. So a lot of guys wrapped up fall ball this weekend, and if they don't wrap up this weekend, it's next weekend. So the plan for you guys is just like a short deload where we're going to keep the arm moving. We're just going to toss the football around a little bit, try and keep ourselves in shape, and then that way we can shorten up our ramp up. We can shorten up our ramp up. So it won't be a complete shutdown. We'll just keep the arm moving a little bit, but nothing that's going to put under stress. That way, it's not as big of a. But we don't have to go through the whole 6 weeks again because 6 weeks from now is like I don't know, middle of December, right? And so we want to probably be rocking and rolling, ready to go a little bit before then. And then for you guys that are just got done with fall ball, what I'll do is I'll reassign the movement assessment that you guys all did at the beginning, and you guys will go through that again, just so I can see like where we're at in terms of ranges of motion and things. And then number three is just continue to be a great communicator. So a lot of you guys have been doing a good job of just, if I ask you a question, getting back to me. If you have an issue or not sure about something, just ask, right? I try to get back to you guys on those as soon as I can. So just continue to communicate. If I don't get to see you in person um, that week, then just send me some video or something I can look at it. But just make sure you guys communicate with me. That way I can help you. Because remember, it's really all about you guys and your off season, right? My job is just to help guide you through it and help you get better when we get through it on the other side. So that doesn't happen if you guys don't speak up when you need things.